Welcome, everyone. Let's start the meeting. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today's agenda will include an update on an action item on the Capital Mall Design Framework, an action item on the commemorative work Ward Gun, and an update on the Rice Street and Jackson Street projects and other projects. First, let's do a roll call, and if folks can just briefly introduce themselves. Ms. Badgerow, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Dana Badgerow, public member.
Excellent. Dr. Bean?
Present.
Let's see. Ms. Belton?
Present.
Mr. Garrett? Ms. Hills? Mr. McLean?
Here.
Ms. McMahon?
Present, Melanie McMahon, City of St. Paul.
No Representative Cleveland. No Representative Schwartz. Senator Nelson?
Senator Nelson is here. I'll be here as long as my, I'm traveling today, so as long as my connection holds. Look forward to the meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you, Senator. Senator Pappas?
Senator Pappas here representing the Capitol and downtown.
Excellent. And I am also here. First on the agenda is an update and action item on the Capital Mall Design Framework. Welcome to Josh Brooks, Principal Landscape Architect and Planner from Sasaki, and Executive Secretary Cedar Leaf Dahl. Josh and Eric are both here to give an overview of the framework and seek an action item from the board today to approve final changes to the 90% Capital Mall Design Framework and begin a 90-day review and formal amendment to the comprehensive plan to include the final formal attachment to the 2040 comprehensive plan for the Minnesota State Capital Area, last adopted in 2021. Take it away, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Board. I'm Eric Cedar Leaf Dahl, Executive Secretary, and I'm happy to introduce Josh Brooks today. We've been really pleased working with Sasaki. They've done an excellent job, reached almost 14,000 Minnesotans in developing the Capital Mall Design Framework, as well as held several community meetings and met with many other stakeholders. And I'm excited for him to share with you the changes since we last met in May. This will be the final time you hear from Josh, and we'll be spinning through the whole thing, and I'm excited for you to see what's next. So take it away, Josh.
Thank you, everybody, for having me here today. I'm really excited to present the final CMDF document. As Eric mentioned, today the vote is to adopt the CMDF as the official policy document for the management of the capital district and the mall itself. And I think that's exciting because for a long time, there hasn't necessarily been this guidance. And I think what our team has accomplished with many of you in this room and certainly with the voice of the community is what we see as a very rigorous and thoughtful document that outlines a respectful vision for the future. There's a number of updates. I'm not going to read every single one of these, but we have been working with project partners, with the capital staff on a number of updates since we last discussed. Additionally, what you will be voting on today has changed a little bit from the 90% draft that we sort of voted on, and it will have a few more minor revisions that have already been given to our team as part of the final document comments. All of that is centered around understanding the historic legacy of the Capitol and what it has meant to the state. And, I think for our team, it has been an honor to sort of think about the legacy that we will be leaving on the Capitol and how this could guide decision-making for many, many years to come. And we don't take that lightly. And so, this document really is meant to be the next generation of decisions, a plan for the 21st century. I think that's really how we positioned every thought as we thought about this design. I want to start by sort of outlining, I think our general call, our sort of fundamental call to action. We started with the legacy of Cass Gilbert, the remarkable sort of physical framework. You can look out this window and see the sort of embrace of the city, the state, the landscape. And we don't take that lightly. We understand that that is the historic context. But when you start to read some of the text, the writing around, that was crafted around this time and around the design, a lot of it is about embracing the people. And I think that's fundamental. And so as we think about the purpose of the Capitol, it is for the people, and it is for the everyday experience, the big day experience. And it's a place of voice, a place of democracy. And I think fundamental to the CMDF is that democratic process. Planning, design, when done right, is inherently a democratic process. And we're very excited to say this is really one of the most extensive public engagement campaigns that I have been a part of in my career. And the fact that we reached 14,000 people in approximately 6 months is quite remarkable. I think our local partners and St. Associates have a lot of credit to that, as well as many of you that helped get the word out. But this, I think, is a very representative document of a broad range, geographically and demographically, of the people of Minnesota. We had a number of large and small events that really formed the way that we thought about this. And that really all comes together around three themes of vitality, inclusivity, and diversity, with the purpose of being a more welcoming place for more Minnesotans. And that is a fundamental drumbeat throughout this entire document, is that we are looking to create a place that is more welcoming for the people. Again, it all centers around the everyday, the ability for the people that work on this campus to walk outside, have a functional, safe, comfortable place to call their place of business, as well as the big day, place where we can celebrate, where we can come together, whether it's large events that happen regularly or whether it's special events that happen just every so often. So very excited to outline the CMDF for you all today. Before we get into the content of the actual document, I do want to take a moment to sort of frame how this fits into the context of historic preservation and transformation. Our team was tasked with giving two deliverables, the Cultural Landscape Report and the Capitol Mall Design Framework. Both of those documents happened and were generated in parallel. The CLR influenced the Capitol Mall Design Framework. The Cultural Landscape Report is a technical document. It is not a planning document. It is not a design. It is a technical document that outlines the historic considerations of a place. And it has influenced the Capitol Mall Design Framework throughout this entire process. Specific to that is the core definition of the Secretary of Interior's office. And what our Cultural Landscape Report calls out is that the mall should be treated in a manner of rehabilitation. And what rehabilitation means is that it is a place that has had changes over time, that has a new use associated with it, that needs to adopt to be culturally relevant, to be of the time. And so every decision that we have made has used the Secretary of Interior's recommendations and definitions and outlines to ensure that we are respecting the historic past. We have documented all of the historic resources and considerations on the mall itself. We have understood the times and the changes that have happened both within the period of significance and outside of the period of significance. And every aspect of the Capitol Mall Design Framework relates back to the historic resources that are outlined in the Cultural Landscape Report. And that is very critical to understand that the purpose of the CMDF is to provide a framework policy so that decisions and actions on the mall do not necessarily need to be relitigated as you move forward. And so this process has uncovered those historic resources, has discussed those historic resources, and has outlined a very relevant and historically respectful master plan that can be used moving forward. I want to relate this to what it means to work in our nation's most cherished historic monument. So the Minnesota Capitol Mall is a national treasure. It's a beautiful buildings, the beautiful campus. How does this relate to other projects? Simone, you said you're going to be visiting DC later today, and so you'll see a couple of familiar pictures that maybe you'll see later. Our team has extensive work in our nation's capital. We're actually still working on the United States Capitol. I think I said that in our interview. We're still working on that, not even close to being done. But over the course of time, we've also worked on a number of projects that are now built and finished. The Lincoln Memorial was functionally obsolete. The infrastructure didn't work. The accessibility had faltered. Trees had died. Our team was hired to lead a rehabilitation that took, again, a functionally obsolete yet historic monument and transformed it into something that was rehabilitated to modern standards. That included introducing new security features, new accessibility features, new trees where there were not historically trees, new walkways where there were not historically walkways. The intention there is to respect the history of the place, but understand that it needs to be brought up to 21st century standards. Another project, the US Capitol, very similar in context to Minnesota State Capitol, had a huge sprawling parking lot right behind it. Our team, in concert with Callison RTKL, was hired by the architect of the Capitol to insert a new visitor center into a historic campus to replace the parking lot and to replace the progression from the outside into the building. And within that context, very similar to what the Cultural Landscape Report and the CMDF have done, is it looked at the evolution of this campus over time. These districts are not static. They change over time. When you look to the original design intent to the last time it was touched, lots of things happen in between there. The intent is to really focus on what makes the district sort of whole, what are the historic intentions behind it. And this new design respects the legacy of the open glades, the large mature trees, but again, installs new pathways, new water features where there were not water features, new trees where there were not trees, all with the intention of respecting the historic legacy, but bringing it up to modern standards. And so how does that relate to the Minnesota State Capitol and the document that is being approved today? Cass Gilbert laid out a remarkable vision for a sort of building up on the hill, historic legacy that really can still be seen today. But over the course of time, this district has evolved. This district has changed. It's very easy to look at the historic imagery and to understand how quickly and how dynamic this district has been. When you look at the historic design and planning documents, you understand that there was a myriad of intents around how this district has been managed. And so what we're doing here today is just part of that historic legacy, respecting a resource that still exists and thinking about how we cherish it for decades and for decades to come. And so going back to that CLR, the period plan, which is outlined in the Cultural Landscape Report, is 1962. Our team has documented everything that was there in 1962. However, things have already changed since then, and the CLR itself clearly outlines that the period of significance was defined by the evolution of the campus over time. There have even been decisions since that time around how the building has been restored, the landscape around the building, that doesn't relate to the period of significance and does not outline interventions that are exactly what it was in 1962. And so that the point is that this is an important time to set the table for what our policy document is that guides decisions moving forward. And the CMDF is that document that outlines a vision that is more welcoming to more Minnesotans. And so the CMDF as a document is really centered around three scales: the area, the campus, and the mall. And each one of those has a different level of detail associated with it. That's clearly outlined. The illustrative plans and the diagrams that you see in the document span the entire district and call for a place that helps set the table for the placement of new buildings, the arrangement of parking and functionality, circulation, large-scale landscape treatments, maintenance obligations and directives, all with the intention, again, of creating a more welcoming place for more Minnesotans. As you zoom in and scale to the upper and lower malls, it paints a picture of a place that respects the historic legacy of the mall itself, the axial relationship between the castle and the surrounding city, but offers a unique series of interventions that both celebrate that history, but also bring in accessibility, inclusivity, new programmatic functions, new frameworks for thinking about commemorative works. So again, that every single decision that you make on a daily basis doesn't necessarily have to go through the process of understanding how it fits into that context. The CMDF now is that policy document. It provides visuals that demonstrate what it means to think about rearranging the amount of space that we give over to cars, creating more comfortable streetscape environments. Thinking about how festivals and activities like the marathon fit into this historic landscape. Painting new pictures for the evolution of Cass Gilbert from a sort of, I'll call it native hill, into a thriving public space that could be multi-generational. A vision for the upper mall that provides ample shade and tree canopy to provide for human comfort, while still framing and respecting the historic axial relationships and view corridors from the streets. A seasonal design that takes into consideration accessibility and comfort throughout all seasons. A place that truly celebrates Minnesota's cultural and landscape diversity through new pollinator and ethnobotanic expressions in the lower mall. A place of vitality that sets frameworks for the placement of new buildings, new mobility hubs, new public spaces at the University and Rice intersection. And finally, places that are the commons, a place for the people to come together and feel represented. This is a visual of our design for the Martin Luther King Boulevard Park, which transforms it from a simple vehicular street into a dynamic and flexible public plaza. And so the CMDF has 8 fundamental ideas. Those are all born from the comprehensive plan. That's the document that started it all. Our team then went into a deep dive on the technical and functional requirements that exist, a comprehensive analysis that ultimately led to those 3 sort of thematic principles, the vitality, diversity, and inclusivity. From there, those 8 bold ideas, and I think when we first presented to you, it was 10, some of them overlaps, there's been some reimagining of those. And those principles really do formulate the capital mall framework. In the document, each one of these is outlined to provide the sort of high-level intent behind it, but then also to give some design recommendations about how those things come to fruition. This was not a plan to design every single detail of the mall itself, design every single detail for decisions and projects that happen for years and decades to come, but rather to give a policy framework for how those things should be considered. And so elements like amenity guidelines for users, locations of new things like visitor centers and the amenities that those would need to be. Reinvigorating nodes, stitching the capital district back into the city. What our team has given is a framework for thinking about the investment and building placement in strategic nodal locations around the campus, and outlining the types of spaces and amenities that each one of those nodes would need, so that people that work and live in and around this district have places to gather, places to have their daily needs met. One of the other big ideas that I think we honed in on right away was reinforcing and right-sizing roads with trees. There is a tremendous opportunity to think about increased tree canopy across this entire district and really take back space that has been given over to vehicles and really focus on creating a pedestrian environment that is comfortable while still respecting the historic legacy and the views of the Capitol itself. Within this section, we also outline functionality issues around circulation, parking, view corridors. We've talked about within the document the need to think about topography in a strategic way to sculpt it for new accessibility paths and security measures. Within that, we have guidelines on technical details around security walls, while also thinking strategically around regrading of the mall itself to provide those paths for accessibility. We introduced new strategies to represent Minnesota's cultural diversity and ecological variety by really reconsidering the way that commemorative works are placed within the campus, not necessarily dictating the types of commemorative works, but how you think about placement and the evaluation of those elements. The vision for MLK, as I mentioned before, is outlined both from a technical standpoint and from a visual standpoint, also giving case studies from around the country about how that could possibly play out. Celebrating water throughout all seasons, thinking strategically about stormwater management as well as seasonal interventions and outlining the ways that those can happen. Creating new planting strategies that provide for seasonal expression and visual interest while also being sustainable and culturally relevant. And then creating multi-generational spaces that allow for the people that call this neighborhood home to actually have a remarkable public ground for them to enjoy. Outlining Cass Gilbert Park from a user program standpoint, a partnership opportunity standpoint, and a physical layout standpoint. All of those big ideas and the visions that are outlined in the CMDF are organized in a document. And I want to be clear, this is not the CAAPB plan. This is not our opinion. This is a document and a plan guidance that is based on a rigorous process, our team's deep experience in these types of projects, and most importantly, community engagement. The fact that there were 14,000 touch points that influenced this project means that it truly is a representation of what people want to see this capital be like. It is a rigorous document. It's almost 200 pages long and is organized in a way that allows users to understand why decisions were made, what those decisions are, and what those decisions can mean if they are in fact made. It provides guidance on how we all work together, how you all work together, outlining the partnerships that could exist, the roles and responsibilities and considerations to sort of clean up some of the considerations so that we all understand our seat at the table. It provides a consideration on phasing, and not only from a physical standpoint, but also from a technical standpoint. What are the cost considerations that we might think about? What are the dependencies that might need to be considered? Who are the partners that need to be involved in projects that are outlined in the CMDF? And so not only is this a beautiful vision, but it's also a strategic roadmap for decision-making over time. And it clearly outlines a series of next steps that we encourage you all to take, and we hope that you take, because we truly do believe in the plan that's been outlined today. And so at the end of the day, this sets up and provides a framework for long-range planning. It guides maintenance practices and operations practices. It assists in policy formations. It provides a tool for evaluating proposals, and it should set funding priorities. That is the purpose of the CMDF. And so what does this mean now, and what does this mean for future generations? Again, the evolution of the campus is a remarkable century-old conversation. But you have action, immediate action that is being talked about. How do we actually use funds that are available now? And so the CMDF outlined a first phase investment that has evolved over time. I believe Eric's going to give an update there. But at the end of the day, the CMDF truly does outline a vision for the future that I don't necessarily think needs to be relitigated every time a decision comes up, but rather sets the tone for decision-making moving forward, all with the intention of creating a more welcoming place for more Minnesotans. And I'm excited to stand here today. I think our entire team, which includes roughly 15, 20 people that have worked on this project, is incredibly proud of the work that we have done. We think the vision that is set forth is truly remarkable. And I'm proud to say, as of last week, this project actually won the highest award for the state of Colorado American Society of Landscape Architects. And so that's very exciting to say that even before we're done, the industry is understanding that this is a solid piece of work. And so thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Mr. Brooks. This is overwhelming, but I think in a really wonderful, wonderful way. The work that you have done and the whole Sasaki team is phenomenal, along with the 14,000 Minnesotans, right, who also weighed in on this plan. So at this point, I would just put it up to questions from the board. Go right ahead, Mr. Mann.
Not a question so much as a comment. Just wanted to also reiterate the thank you to your team, to all of the state of Minnesota staff that participated in it, and the community for the work. One thing I did want to call out that I really do appreciate is your comments on the distinction between the CLR and the design framework. Right? CLR being more of a living document, working document meant to guide but not dictate. And really appreciate that distinction, and the design framework being the planning document and the guidance going into it. And that body of work being really great and successful moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Other comments, observations?
Amen.
All right. Go right ahead.
Amen.
Amen. Right. Senator Nelson.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. And I must say, I've gone through the documents and they are very thorough, very comprehensive, organized, easy to navigate through, and the partnerships, the vision, all of those things I think are to be applauded. However, I do have one comment and then a thought. Beyond that, I do not believe that having 14,000 touch points is enough to say that this is a true representation of what Minnesotans really, I can't remember the full term, really want or really desire or really look for or really hope to see in their capital mall. 14,000 touch points, that would not even be, that, as you all know, that's a very small number of the 5 million Minnesotans whose capital this is. And many do not live in the metro area, where maybe they did not participate in the charrettes and the other very informative outreach. And so my concern is when I heard that term, I don't believe that is a representative of Minnesotans. And then the second phrase that kind of just gave me some alerts is that, well, this does not need to be relitigated. This is, this is the capital comprehensive plan going forward. And so it's the fact that I think we must be cognizant of the fact that, one, our world is changing very quickly. Secondly, I don't know that we should put our mindset to that. What happens now, what this CAP board might decide, or what we might do going forward, is the be all and the end all. I think we live in a very fluid society. Our legislature changes, Minnesotans change. As I said, the world changes around us. So I think we have to be careful in thinking that this is how that this is going to be appropriate for all time. I don't believe that's the case, and I also am concerned that we did not have a very broad input into the design. But I do tip my hat to the design firm, the consultants. I think they've produced a phenomenal document that can be very helpful, but I'm cognizant of some of the shortcomings as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Josh, did you have anything that you want to weigh in here?
No, I think those are two very relevant comments, and I appreciate them. Community engagement is always a challenge, and we try our absolute best to reach as many people as humanly possible in as short a time as we had. There's always time for more community conversation, so I would tend to agree.
Mr. Gary.
Josh, I'm very impressed by the amount of work that you guys put in, and having participated in a few of the events, excuse me, I know that this is quite a heavy lift. So I'm very appreciative. You did mention, and you're very clear in your final slide, that this is not the society. As a design professional, I kind of know what that means, but I'd like to ask you, are there things that you would do differently if it were just a society plan? Are there maybe opportunities or ideas that if you guys were maybe in a vacuum just looking at this challenge that you would have done differently?
As another design professional, that's a dangerous question to ask. I think at a high level, I would say no. I believe what's in here is the appropriate guidance for moving forward. I think there are certainly some details at a very specific physical level that we had previous recommendations that I think still hold some merit. However, at the end of the day, I firmly believe that it is the designer's responsibility to react to input and evolve our thinking in concert with the community and stakeholders. And so at the end of the day, I stand by that statement and I'm proud of all the decisions that go into this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rickland.
Let's see. Thank you. Very thorough presentation and framework. Very exciting. I was just kind of thinking based on Senator Nelson's comments. I just had a question. It may be more for Eric. Just kind of technically, I'm actually I was having trouble just doing a thought experiment about what if something down the road came up that kind of conflicted with the framework. I can't think of anything at this point, but if in 2 years' time, there's some significant change and the body wants to rethink the framework. Is it what's the process for amending it later? Or is that something we can do? Can you just speak a little bit to that as a potential concern?
Sure.
Madam Chair, Board Member McLean, that's a great question that I think I may have to get back to you on. And, but this is a live body that can make changes as necessary if new information arises or new funding or new perspectives on what the mall and what the surrounding area should be focused on. But our comprehensive plan is the basis, and the resolution that we're going to be talking about will open up another 90-day comment period on integrating this into the comprehensive plan. So there's more opportunity for more public comment. And I think the CAP board and staff will continue to work to get more input, and I can get back to you on specifically how we could change it. I don't have it off the top of my head.
And just one quick follow-up. And the comprehensive plan, that's something we review it. Is it every 10 years, that cycle? Is that?
Yes, every 10 years. Mr. Ramsey, did you?
That's right, roughly.
There's a built-in kind of revisiting of the whole picture every so often. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Nelson, your hand is still raised, so I just want to make sure that if you want to weigh in here, you have the opportunity.
Excuse me. I did not need to keep my hand raised, but I will just amend my comments briefly and then lower my hand. If we're talking about true representation, of course, that is the legislature, which is not only a representative of all Minnesotans, but all Minnesotans have equal opportunity to influence those legislators. And also to remember that the legislature provides the funding. Obviously, we know that here. But what I would say is, all in all, I think there's so much good work here, but I'm very cognizant of the fact that I think there should be more legislative oversight and more legislative involvement going forward. But thank you, Madam Chair.
And Senator, I really appreciate your remarks in that perspective. And I think That also is the opportunity for the members of the House and Senate who sit on the CAP board to bring the conversations that happen here back to their legislative colleagues. I would encourage you to do that over the next 90 days, as there's an opportunity for the public to weigh in at least one more time. And the CAP board exists because of the legislature, and so I think there is opportunity for us, to work more closely together, of course. But I'm grateful that we have legislators who serve on the board, and just encourage you to use your role as enthusiastically as you would like.
Madam Chair?
Mm-hmm. So.
Yes, I'm sorry. The one thing I would note, though, is the 90 days. Minnesotans, the nation has a lot going on in the next 90 days. And
you don't say
that. So I'm just saying the next 90 days, as you well know, are going to be a difficult time, quite frankly, to really have a much bandwidth with either our constituents or, quite frankly, even other elected officials regarding something as important as the Capitol Mall. So it might be appropriate to delay or pivot to a better time frame, which would allow for more of that legislative involvement. That's another consideration that I would put forward, not as a motion, but that we must consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just want to underscore that this has been an incredible effort and very, very detailed. I want to emphasize as well that this does become part of the comprehensive plan. So it has the same rubric as the comprehensive plan, gets changed as it needs, but mostly nothing gets done without money. Mm-hmm. And so without legislative approval, none of this stuff will really happen, but this provides the framework, the overall outline within which we will operate. So I would like to move the motion, which is now displayed on the screen, and it's in your packets. So I don't know if you want to read it. I don't think it's necessary to read it, but it basically approves the plan. We'd like to tie the bow on the project, get this beyond this and move forward. I'm really interested in moving forward. And to do that, we have to have formal approval. So I think this motion does that, and I move it.
Excellent. It's been moved by Ms. Badgerow. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second from Ms. McMahon. We have a first and a second to approve this combined resolution. Is there a discussion? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and do the roll call. We need to vote by roll call. Oh, sorry, Senator Nelson.
Oh, I just wanted to note, I can make my comments, well, I'll make them now. I will not be supporting at this time for the very reasons that I listed regarding looking for more time for legislative involvement, as well as, most importantly, our constituents to get a broader and larger amount of constituent input. But I do appreciate the work so far, and I will just preface my vote that will be coming with those comments. Thank you.
Understood, Senator. Any additional discussion? Okay, I will go ahead and call Executive Secretary. Please go ahead and call.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Kate Bean.
Aye.
Board Member James McLean. Board Member James Garrett. Board Member Hannah Hill.
Aye.
Board Member Melanie McMahon.
Aye.
Board Member Alicia Belton.
Aye.
Senator Carla Nelson.
No.
Board Member Dana Badger.
Aye.
Senator Sandy Pappas.
Aye.
And Chair Flanagan.
Aye. And the motion is approved. Thank you. I think we need to take a quick break. As it's known to do sometimes, Microsoft Teams has to reboot itself. So we're in that moment. We will take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back.
So the computer is going to reboot, so you'll need to rejoin the meeting. We're really sorry. For some reason it decided to reboot right now, and that's the computer connected to the OWL. So everyone online will have to rejoin the meeting. Sorry about that. We'll be back in 5 minutes. It's 9:52. We'll be back at 9:57.
But in the meantime, we also want to say thanks to Sasaki and we're concluded with that subject.
That's correct. Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Thank you, Sasaki.
Thank you.
Excellent. 5-minute break. Moving on, we are now into the next item on today's agenda, which is an application for removal of the commemorative ward gun. Oh, sorry. Yeah, just the update, sorry. So we're going to go to an update from Executive Secretary Eric Dahl. Take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll keep this quick, and it's just a brief update on phase one. Let's make sure this works. Okay, so thank you, board. So if you remember back May 15th, this is the phase 1A plan that the board approved in the upper mall and lower mall, focused on getting what was statutorily required per the legislation for the capital mall design framework and getting done what we could get done this year. At the time in May 15th, we were hoping for an extension to next June for the funds to really do this work. Martin Luther King Commons, the trees in the upper mall and lower mall, as well as Tribal Flag Plaza, as well as the Ford site. We unfortunately didn't get that extension, so we need to spend all of the $5 million allotted to this project by December 31st this year. And so we're working with admin and their consultants and to move forward as quickly as we possibly can. So we're not going to be able to get all of phase 1A done that we hoped we could get done. We're going to pursue that in future with the future legislature and with the CAAPB board. But this is what you approved. This is kind of where we're at. Okay. So here's just a couple pictures of what's happening in Lot Q, the lower mall west, lower mall east. So here's Lot Q. We're going to be replacing trees up in Lot Q as well as in Cass Gilbert Park, some that have died, or just trying to expand tree canopy up there. As well as here's lower mall west. So on the left-hand side there, that the road is John Ireland Boulevard. We're replacing trees or adding trees where we can in the lower mall, and all those trees are in process right now being replaced. Here's lower mall east, down by just more trees being planted down there. I just wanted everybody to kind of see where we're at. Here's the upper mall. We had a lot of trees in the shoulders, and we're continuing to work with admin and the consultant to move forward as many trees as we possibly can up there. But this is what we have currently. We're continuing discussions, and we hope to get even more trees than this in the coming months before the snow flies. And then here's the Tribal Flag Plaza. So if you recall from the first picture, this is right below Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. This is a more detailed look. We've been working with the governor's office, tribal folks there to help us connect with tribes to work on plantings and size of flags and make sure the materials are correct. And so everybody's really excited about that. The trees in this will be the tamaracks, and this will be done by December 31st too, if everything works out and we can get everything in the ground. But working as fast as we possibly can there. Here's a couple of pictures of what it'll look like from the Tribal Flag Plaza looking up at the Capitol. We just did some quick renderings, but you can see some of the plantings and the height of the flags and the trees and the benches that we'll have. Unfortunately, we aren't going to be able to move forward with Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard at this time. We were trying to do a temporary project there, but it just don't have enough time to get that done, to get a mural in. We need to clean the surface of the road and a lot of traffic issues and safety issues. So we're going to pursue that in a future time. And it was great working with the city and admin to try and figure out that project, but it just couldn't get done at this time. And then this is the Ford site. This is moving forward as well this year and is in process. The permit was approved, and so they've already demolished the Ford building, and this is what we're looking at for trees and green space and the new tunnel entrance there at the Ford site. So that I just wanted to keep you all up to date on the changes, and if you have any questions, I can answer them, or we can move right into the ward gun, which we're really excited to talk to you about today.
Any questions? Okay, excellent. Let's take a. Okay.
Yep.
Great. So now let's move on to the next item on today's agenda, an application for removal of the commemorative ward gun from Principal Planner and Zoning Administrator Peter Munstein, and the applicant, Executive Director of the Minnesota Military and Veterans Museum, Randall Dietrich. Peter and Randall, please take it away.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to turn to this action item. Today we'll be meeting and hearing from Randall Dietrich, the Executive Director of the under construction Minnesota Military and Veterans Museum, just north of Little Falls. He'll be giving us a short history of the USS Ward gun and describing the proposal to relocate the gun to a prominent display in the new museum. The gun has spent the first years of its retirement in a very prominent spot here on campus, with administration caring for it well with finite resources. And just a quick report on progress under the new commemorative works rules. The next slide. Thank you. The application represents first time we will test the CAAPB Board's new commemorative works rules process, established following a comprehensive task force process in 21 and 22. It's a policy that builds on both established past and best practices, designed from the wisdom of a diverse task force of Minnesotans working after engaging with many across the state. The rules of the process has been designed to be accessible to anyone or a group and can handle removal, modification, addition of new works, or a combination. And as you can see in this process slide, just in the next one, the rules are designed to be very thorough and deliberate, but all of the steps designed by the task forces and then vetted by administrative law judge serve a process that is transparent, equitable, and accessible. I can report we have had a range of other applicants step forward to inquire informally, and some are now cultivating more applications presently that you may hear about soon. Staff extends a special thanks to Mr. Dietrich for being willing to be the first applicant to test the rules. We are hopeful you will survive all the steps. Next slide. Today is the first step in the process. We're here. The staff has described in the board memo. The item today is mostly informational. It allows us to start the public process, leading to decisions about this proposal. The work would include one or more public hearings and formation of a commemorative artwork review committee that will make recommendation back to the board. So after hearing from the applicant, we ask for you to consider a simple resolution that supports the next steps ahead. With that, it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Dietrich.
Thank you. Go right ahead, Mr. Dietrich.
Madam Chair, today, what you see on the screen, on the morning of December 7th, 1941, the Minnesota crew for the USS Ward fired this gun, hit and sank an enemy mini submarine attempting to sneak into Port Harbor a full hour before the Japanese attack on December 7th, 1941. It is a artifact of great military historical significance. And after the war, After the war, the crew from the ward worked hard to bring the ward gun here. Over the years, it's been outside displayed since 1958 when there's a loan agreement entered into from the Navy and the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs. The gun currently is on display just outside the Veteran Service Building. So since 1958, it's been displayed there. Certainly over the years, sitting outside since 1958, being an important military artifact, not the best place for it to be exposed to the elements. And I think there's pretty broad consensus in the museum community that it needs to move indoors for its long-term care and to be more affordable to maintain that care. Next slide, please. A couple of images. This slide next to you just sort of speak to the museum's capacity to do this work. This is from our photographic collection at the museum. This is the Ward gun under construction at Mare Island in California, 1918 World War I destroyer. Next slide, please. At our museum currently, we also have a number of archives and artifacts related to the crew, oral histories of those Minnesotans. Dick Klobuchar from Rochester wrote sort of a definitive book on the USS Ward. We have all his records now. So consolidating this information at our new museum at Camp Berkeley. Next slide, please. Again, speaking to capacity, a little different example of one that's pertinent. This is the sale of the USS Minneapolis St. Paul submarine. working with Governor Walz, we did send a letter to the Navy, and Governor Walz endorsed our plan to capture this piece of Minnesota history, return it back from the Bremerton Naval Yard in Washington, bring it back here 2 years ago, and right now this is being restored by our team to be installed on the new property that we can see here in just a minute. But an example of the good work we are already doing in a much larger project. In this case, a big part of it is submarine, actually. So next slide. And then beyond that, again, the governor's offered a letter for us to secure the USS Minneapolis sailing rudder that you just saw. These are 2 letters in your packets that speak to the importance of us lobbying Naval History and Heritage Command to approve this change. The letter on the left being from our chair, Board President Mark Ritchie, and then the other being from Commissioner Brad Lindsay of MDDA. Again, Commissioner Lindsay's letter outlines the request to adjust edits the loan agreement between the Big Navy out in DC and the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs, asking that a new loan agreement be written between Big Navy and our museum to move this war gun to this new facility. Next slide, please. Just to give you a sense of our plans to move that war gun inside, this is a 40,000 square foot facility currently under construction at Camp Ripley. And you see, again, the war gun kind of prominently placed inside at the center of our World War II gallery. Next slide. Last slide. A quick overview of what's currently under construction at Camp Ripley. This state-funded construction is underway now, with the idea that it will be completed in 2026. And we're hopeful to include that war gun inside of that museum in time for our grand opening once it's removed, restored, and then relocated inside of the new museum, allowing us to provide much richer interpretation, drawing upon those whole histories of the crew members and telling a more complete story of that, what it does represent, hearing from Minnesotans via their histories. And again, in this case, provide year-round interpretation indoors in an environment that speaks to the importance of this one of a kind military. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dietrich. Chair, any question or facility?
Well, first of all, Mr. Dietrich, thank you. Thank you, one, for being willing to take this new process that we have in place for a spin. I'm very excited that we are now using something that just so much time and thought and effort went into by our task forces. But also, this is so incredibly cool. Just so excited to be able to, to work to preserve this artifact, but also excited about the museum and the possibilities there. Just thinking about all the students who can come in and just learn so much about our history here in Minnesota, and to be able to be a part of that is really wonderful. So thank you. Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
This is a no-brainer, but what action are we asked to take today?
So we are approving the application.
Yeah, we are going to go through it. It's more of approval, some process steps.
Okay, so moved.
I will. Yeah, I have a couple slides, and then we can pull the resolution up.
Excellent. Would you like to?
Well, it's just such a no-brainer.
Right, for sure. Absolutely. So, Ms. Badger, would you like to remove your?
Yes, I will withdraw the motion.
Withdraw the motion. Excellent. Thank you. So we're very excited here, as you can tell, Mr. Mussing.
Thank you. This will be quick. Thank you for your patience, board member. The process of considering removal of a work on the grounds is a 3-step process. We are in the first, where staff facilitates the application and brings the item to the board. The resolution in your memo will present these steps. Next slide, please. The second step involves the work of a commemorative artwork review committee that is formed according to this structure. They can conduct independent process and conclude with making a recommendation to the board. I will not go through the structure of the committee. You have that in your memo and slide. The next slide. Final step.
Sorry.
Thank you. The final step is for that committee to present the recommendation back to this board for final decision. So Chair Flanagan, we can move to the resolution slide. And thank you for the time granted to introduce Mr. Dietrich to explain the process. The resolution, to be clear, is not authorizing any actual approvals of the proposal, but simply stating awareness and support for executive secretary and staff. Keep moving the process along, begin forming the committee, and hold hearings as necessary.
That is my motion.
Excellent. There is a motion by Ms. Badger. Is there a second? And a second by Ms. Hills. Is there any discussion? Mr. Rintley.
I just have a quick clarifying question on the committee that's the ARC. Is that triggered each time there's an application? Is there a new CARC for each application?
Yes. Yes, we've looked at it to see if we could double up, but each memorial or every commemorative work is different. So if you see the structure of the committee, it really requires it's their own set of experts.
Gotcha.
Thank you. So, and we will, it does require board member involvement. So we will enlisting some of the board members or ideas or guidance from them.
Wonderful. Thank you. Dr. Bean, go right ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A quick comment. I just wanted to state how thankful I am for this process that's been created. You know, I think that climate change has a real impact on public art, and this is a really good example of that and the ways in which our environment is changing and the human impact is making a big impact on our public art in the state capitol. And I'm just so appreciative of this process.
Thank you, Dr. Bean. Any additional discussion? Okay, we will need to vote by roll call. Executive Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Bean.
Aye.
Board Member McLean. Board Member Garrett. Board Member Hills.
Aye.
Board Member McMahon. Representative Isaac Schultz, I think I saw you join.
Aye.
Board Member Belton might have dropped off. Sure. Senator Carla Nelson. She was back on. Senator Nelson. Okay. Board Member Badger.
Aye.
Senator Pappas.
Aye.
And Chair Flanagan.
Aye.
Motion prevails.
The motion is approved. Thank you, Mr. Muncy. Thank you, Mr. Dietrich, for just jumping into the deep end here with us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
First time, so
That's right. Excellent. So we will move on to the next item on today's agenda, an update on the Rice Street and Jackson Street. This is an informational item from Principal Planner Musty and a reporter from the City of St. Paul Public Works and Kathy Pinta from TKDA. Welcome and please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I am happy now it turns to this, as you said, informational item. Our comprehensive plan calls for support of walkability, comfort, safety, resilience, and mobility improvements throughout campus and the network of streets and public spaces throughout the capital area. The policy we support in the comp plan supports city and the county multimodal improvements in street design that make walking, biking, and riding and transit more competitive choices, but that all make all modes, including driving, safer and more convenient. We've invited colleagues leading two important street reconstruction projects that will transform two corridors in the capital area. Anna Potter is here from the City of St. Paul and will present an overview of the Rice Street project first, made possible with funding from the Minnesota legislature in 2023. It is a transformative project that's a central goal of our comp plan. Cassandra Pinta is project manager at TKDA. She is representing an equally impressive team selected by the City of St. Paul to lead design of the long-awaited Jackson Street redesign project. She is here today with Jerry Lee of the City of St. Paul. And Cassie will each present overviews and then, time permitting, answer any questions the board may have. So, Chair, with your permission, we'll start with Ms. Potter and Rice Street project information.
Go right ahead. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, board members. My name is Anna Potter. I'm with Public Works in the City of St. Paul. I'm here to talk about Rice Street. Next slide, please. We'll keep it brief. Today, we just kicked off our design process for this project. The map that you see on the screen in that yellow highlight is Rice Street. The extent of the project will be from John Ireland on the south to Pennsylvania on the north. You all are probably very familiar with the context of the street as a wide array of modes, of users, of land uses, and activity generators. And the corridor itself is actually half county and half city. So I'm here from the city, but we're also partnering with the county on this project. Nick Fisher might be on the call right now. If he's not, we speak frequently and we'll be partnering together to reconstruct the street. And that is the ultimate goal of the project, is to end with a brand new street on the extent shown on the map. Next slide, please. It takes a long time to get these streets built correctly and with the public process. So for the rest of this year, we're going to be understanding what's out there. We're going to be doing our due diligence of understanding existing conditions, starting our public engagement process, starting to set goals, and make sure that people have time to weigh in on those goals. Throughout next year in 2025, we'll be evaluating options, so continuing to do public engagement with you all, with the community, with the adjacent land uses and property owners, and we'll be evaluating the various options for the street. It'll take us probably the majority of 2025 to do that. At the end of 25, maybe early in 2026, we'll pick a concept. That will be when we recommend one concept to move forward, and then for the rest of 2026, we'll be designing that street and getting very detailed on all of the engineering that goes into reconstructing a street. And then in 2027, we plan to reconstruct it. It'll take us at least that full season to get the street reconstructed. So in 2028, we'll be out of here. Next slide, please. We have some draft goals for the project, but as I said, we just kicked off this process. And so these are in flux right now. We're working with a technical team that CAP board staff sit on, and we're going to be working with community members and property owners to flesh these out more. But the goals are right now to improve pedestrian safety and access, to improve bicycle safety and access, improve transit and multimodal operations, develop a mobility hub along the corridor at University and Rice in conjunction with the Metro Green Line Station, improve vehicle safety and operations, design for an enhanced and sustainable public realm, design for existing and changing land uses, and to do all that while utilizing partnerships and having a transparent process. All these things are consistent with the capital mall design framework that Joshua presented earlier and you all approved. That's really going to be our starting point for looking at goals and looking at process here. Next slide, please. And to that end, this will not be the last time that you see the team. We plan to have significant coordination with the CAP board. We have a monthly meeting of the technical folks that need to be involved in any street reconstruction process. And we have Peter and the CAP board sitting on that to make sure that every month we're checking in with them and with Metro Transit and everyone that needs to be involved. We also have specific just CAP board meetings to make sure that the noise of the room, that has everybody there, that we're hearing exactly what this group wants us to be hearing on the street reconstruction. Those are going to be really important to make sure that the vision from CMDF makes its way into our design options on the street. We plan to be partnering with you all on community engagement and outreach. We don't want to remake the wheel. Heard from 14,000 people. We plan to build on that and make the number a little bit, maybe we'll be to 14.5 or something. And we're not, we're not going to remake any of the stuff we've already heard. We to partner with you on engagement. Partner with you all on reviewing those goals and the inputs, make sure it's consistent with the MDF. Asking you all to assist us with scoping and planning for that mobility hub. That's a new feature on in the city of St. Paul and we want to get it right. So it's going to take some partnership to do that, to make sure we're on the same page with what that is. And we plan to provide as many updates as you all want, but we'll also stay out of your hair and just provide updates when it's a critical point in the process. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I said, we just kicked off, so we don't have a ton more content today, but we do plan to come back when we have more. Anna Potter and the two other people listed on the slides here is Nick Fisher, again, the primary contact and project manager from the county, and Kyla Mays sitting behind me, who is the consultant project manager. I should say we have selected Bolton and Mink to help us with the engagement in the design process here, and they've been very successful at leading very similar efforts throughout the city, including the Rice Street visioning process for the corridor. So we're expecting a really great process. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Kathy Pinta. I work at TKDA, and I'm speaking on behalf of the City of St. Paul to present the Jackson Street Reconstruction Project. So this project is between University Avenue through Pennsylvania Avenue, and this is the northeastern limits of the CAAPB board jurisdiction. And in general, we have heard a lot about this project prior to starting to rev up the design. Specifically, the neighborhood wants the roadway to look a lot nicer than it currently is. They want better accessibility, not only with the quality of the roadway, but as well as the sidewalks. I spoke to someone who has a stroller. They don't actively use the sidewalks because they're not navigatable enough for them. So they're actually using a stroller. So trying to fix those situations. There is lighting issues. It's really dark at night. They don't feel safe navigating it as a pedestrian along there. So we want to improve that. And in general, just make it look better. Thanks. So in hearing those comments, we've developed a rough scope, and we are still in preliminary design, so it's still in flux. But in general, we would like to reconstruct the roadway. We would be narrowing it to allow to remove on-street parking, but removing that is to have space for a trail on one side, a sidewalk on the other, both ADA compliant. And there's also boulevard space to add lighting and some trees or space along there. Since the pavement is being pulled out, we can also take that opportunity to improve some existing utilities. There are a few spaces where there's some lead pipes to take care of that as the street is open and not have random patchwork later on. And there's a retaining wall on the street that we would like to make sure that it's in proper conditions. Working on that. In general, the funding source for this project is through the common sense sales tax that was approved recently. So we're trying to provide a project for the people in a rather rushed time frame compared to typical projects, but we want to provide results for citizens that are implementing this tax. Thanks. So we are currently in the preliminary design phase of making sure that we can accommodate these design options. And then about October through spring design, we have been doing a lot of public engagement throughout the summer, and that'll extend through the life of the project. But roughly construction is planned for July of 25. And we're not far along enough to know, but I do anticipate some of the construction work to fall into 26, but the roadway aspect will be done before the snow falls. So we want to make sure that snow can plow it and be fine. And wanted to point out that we use the city supplier portal for bidding for the construction that will take place there, which is an open and competitive website. Thanks. So I have a slide on some active engagement opportunities that we have done recently. We have met with the Mount Airy
Housing Agency and been to some of their meetings. We've had some one-on-one with the CAP board. We have a scheduled with Capitol Heights at one of their regular attended meetings. We have done door knocking on the residents that live directly on the Jackson Street corridor. And we have an upcoming event for a food pickup to just try to get as many people that would be using this and affected by this as possible. And some future engagements that we're working towards is coordinating with the Boys and Girls Club and talking with the Frogtown Neighborhood Association and some other existing pop-up events that just sort of blend into, so that we're not creating a new event, but joining existing ones that are already established attendees. Next. So we have a project website that you can go to for latest updates. You can share your thoughts on that. This is open in general for the public as well as the board. I have Jerry Lee as our main contact for the project manager on this. That's all I have. I guess any questions?
Yeah. Any questions for Ms. Potter or for Ms. Pinto?
No questions, but I'm sure we will have lots of questions as things progress, but just very excited about both of these projects coming from this community. So thank you for moving on.
I want to just encourage you to utilize Ms. Hill as much as you possibly can. She's amazing. Not to give you additional, but it's just so engaged with the community and the neighborhood. An important voice, I think, for the capital and surrounding area. Mr. McLean.
I was just gonna, just a quick note. I saw it on you mentioned it, but I saw on your list. Let me take a step back. I work for Region Hospital. My day job, I'm not representing that entity on this group, but I saw it on your list, and just obviously that's an important Region Hospital emergency room.
Yes. So
there on your list.
our main concern is their opinion of losing some free parking that's along the roadway on the south end of Jackson Street. They do have 2 brand new parking ramps that they could utilize. So we're coordinating to meet with them to see how, for people that are not willing or financially unable to afford the parking that is available, seeing what kind of accommodations can be done for that. There's also some parking issues with the residents that we are working for them to make sure that they have a place to park, so that we're not removing, some of the back work trucks that are on there. We don't want to remove their livelihood.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I'm just happy that you made that connection. What I was thinking about actually more was just kind of if there's any impact to the emergency vehicles. Obviously, that's
During construction.
Well, during construction and just generally, if there's any impact to the travel there, that's I assume that's all been discussed with
We're in the preliminary design, but yeah, we would be making sure that during construction and obviously final design is implementing that. We do have design vehicles that are making sure to turn everywhere they need to and on there.
Thank you, appreciate it. And follow-up unrelated question. Just as part of that presentation, there's a lot of community input and feedback. And I'm just curious. I know we have a small but mighty CAPWORD team. One thing I'm curious about, I know I'm sure we staff are at some of those meetings, but just wondering, is there a mechanism to, in my limited experience going to community kind of engagement sessions like those, there's often things that come up that are outside of the scope of the project, but might be valuable information for body. I'm just wondering, is there a mechanism to capture that feedback that happens at city or county community engagement sessions for things that are kind of collateral comments to the actual project? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so any events that you go to and have some response, Peter goes to our monthly meetings and has the opportunity to bring it up. We also, at all of these events that we have a summary of who we interacted with and what were their comments in general. and bring it to the team to say, can we address this or that? So we, because of some comments that we received recently, it's just why we are trying to add a parking bay for some residents that originally was not part of the scope. So we are modifying things as we bring light to it.
This is more for the Rice Street, but along with that, one thing I was wondering is exactly what is the scope? Because is it just brick and mortar street physical infrastructure that this project is focusing on? And if so, are there other teams from St. Paul dealing more with the social aspects who will be coordinating with you?
Yes and yes. The project, the 25 million that the state appropriation gave to us has 3 components. The first is to rebuild the street, and all the pieces and the physical infrastructure that's needed to do that. So that's the first part. The second is to make sure to coordinate with this group and to have a public transparent process. And the third is to establish a mobility hub. And we know that doing those 3 things is not just like building the street, but that there are going to come up economic development type issues, parking capacity issues outside of the right of way. So on our monthly technical group, we have people from planning and economic development. We have people from DSI. We have the same counterparts at the county that I don't actually remember what the name of those groups are at the county, but their counterparts, like we all once a month get together to check in, more or less. And that would be the point in those meetings where we would say, this is something the project can solve in the 25 million in the rebuilding of the street. It's a physical infrastructure problem, or identify it as that's a policing and enforcement type issue that is relevant to how we design, but needs to be resolved in a different process. And hopefully one of the people that's in the room there is the actual person that, might take that and run with it. If not, we at least have the people that know which agency or group should take it. So, we're really relying on those monthly check-ins, the PNTs, with people to make sure that we're all aligned on what are the things that this physical infrastructure project will resolve, and what are the things that, as a team, other things are solving.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Good. Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate it and look forward to being in more conversations together.
Yep.
Great. So next we have the approval of the minutes. I'm going to go out on a limb and say we can do a voice vote here rather than a roll call. So is there a motion to move the minutes from May 15th, 2024?
Minutes from May.
Thank you, Mr. Greer. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. McLean, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay. The minutes are approved. Yep, so there, just the last item here is that in the board packet, there's information that is purely informational. This provides status updates on other projects the CAP board is working on, and CAP board staff is available for questions.
Madam Chair, I was just commenting, it's remarkable. I don't know how you guys do it. You have your fingers in a lot of stuff, and I really appreciate it. Amazing work that you do.
Absolutely. Amen.
Thank you. We have a lot of support from a lot of agencies that we work with and people in the community, and so.
It's just 2 of you.
Yeah.
Jesse is our new employee. So.
And welcome aboard, Jesse. We're excited to have you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.